Good morning. Welcome to the live stream. Running a couple of minutes late this morning. My name is Angela. This is the Saturday stream, Saturday, November 8th. Welcome. How are you doing? I am a front-end developer and a software engineer in St. Paul, Minnesota. And on this channel, we practice HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That's it. No frameworks, no libraries. We just enjoy practicing the basics. Don't read into it. Don't read into the whole no frameworks, no libraries thing. It's just practice. It's just for fun. We do it because we enjoy it. And I personally think that more front-end developers, especially new developers, need to understand the basics, in addition to all the frameworks and libraries, whichever one you choose. Welcome. How are you doing? I'm kind of having one of those mornings. Malik Robinson is here. Hello, Malik. Welcome. Malik is a mod in the chat. We love Malik. He's here to help keep everything fast, fun, and friendly. And I appreciate that so much. Ani K is here. Welcome, Ani. How are you doing? So what are we working on today? I have one goal for today, my singular focus, which is to get this header and navigation responsive. I think that I want to do something that I don't usually do, which is I think that we should spend a few minutes working on this design and coming up with an actual plan for how this is supposed to look on mobile. We don't usually do that. We usually wing it. And the result is that it takes me a lot longer than I think it should to get these headers and navigation, especially when there's a search, sorted out. So we're going to spend a little bit of time here in, well, it's a Photoshop file, but I use Affinity Photo. Which I think now didn't Affinity. So Affinity was acquired by Canva a year ago. And now it's Affinity Plus. So where version 2, which is what I had. No, this is a bank. That's a credit union. Affinity Photo. There we go. Affinity Studio. There we go. Okay. So version 2, which is what I've had for a little over a year, was the main, in my opinion, was an excellent competitor to Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. And I had all three. Canva acquired Affinity about a year ago, and on October 30th, they launched, well, first of all, it doesn't cost money anymore. So, a year ago, I spent $180 to get all three. That's fine. I don't mind. I use it all the time, and I'm happy to own the software and not have to pay for updates. Now they've combined all three into one app, and it is completely free. So you don't need to buy it. You do need to have a Canva account, like not even a paid Canva account, but just a free Canva account. And it's supposed to integrate Canva also, but all three, I think they call it here vector, pixel, and layout. So I think vector is, what did they call it here? So there's publisher, designer, and photo. So Affinity Photo was the Photoshop competitor. Designer, I think, was the Illustrator competitor, and publisher was the InDesign competitor. Now they're calling them vector, pixel, and layout. So I think pixel is Photoshop, vector is Illustrator, layout is InDesign. I've done a little bit of Googling, and I think that I can install the new app next to my version 2 apps. I'm clinging tightly to my version 2 Affinity apps because I really, really like them. I also paid for them. But I am curious about the new version of this app. I am a casual Canva user. I don't pay for Canva. I just have a free Canva account. I've made some thumbnails in Canva. So yeah, I think that I can download this app and it would remain independent of the version 2 app. So anyways, if you are curious about what I'm using Affinity Photo, but not the newest version. So I don't know, maybe one of these days I'll try that. Yeah, I've talked a fair amount about Affinity Photo Publisher and Designer on this channel because I've really pushed that as a like an Adobe competitor. So yeah, it's an interesting change. Anyways, let's go ahead, and I feel like we should just make a duplicate file here, and we are going to spend a couple of minutes on this PSD, and we're going to map out what this mobile view is supposed to look like. So let's just save as. There we go. And we'll just call this mobile header. Okay. So some stuff here I really don't care about. So here's our header. I honestly don't care about any of this stuff. I just want to deal with this header. So what's going on here? And I cannot make these options bigger, unfortunately. So let's do this. So I already know in the top bar that we don't need social. I think that extras, sign in, and register could definitely all easily fit on a mobile header. Let's take out, what's this? Oh, here's the navigation. So let's take out, I already know how to deal with the actual navigation. Where's these dots? There we go. Okay, so let's, and I think there are grid lines here already. I'm going to put in, can I clear those grids? How do I clear all these? I know I can clear them. Guides. Can I select them all? There we go. I'm going to put in my own, and I'm going to do this for, I mean, I think I will do this for 600 wide. Okay, come on. So there's 700. So if we do 650 to 1250, that would be 600 wide, right? We'll do that. And we'll do this. Yeah. And then here's this text up here. I'm just going to put it right in the center. We can zoom in here a little bit. And then we've got our search. I think this, pretty sure that was the, you know, we'll do these together. And then we'll put in our own icons and our own logo as well. So we know that top to bottom is also sort of equal to left to right. Top to bottom, left to right. So let's go up here. Here's our logo. So there's sort of the center. And then I don't think that we need this. So that's the top. Okay, top bar, Angela. Search, home, line. Where's the actual? Here's the background right here. So let's bring this up a little bit. About 150. I mean, I think it could be a lot tighter. There's 130. And actually, let's just take out this. Well, I'm just going to hide the search for now, and then let's find our, let's find some actual icons here that we can put in. So I think we should honestly be doing this a lot more often. So there's our search SVG. And here's our menu SVG. So let's start with, I'm going to hide that just for a minute. Let's start with this. Not really worried about what color it is. And I'm going to say that it's 2 rems by 2 rems, which would be 32. So let's make this 32 by 32. Oh, like that's about right. Just like that. So the search would be there. And then I'm going to put this right here. I'm going to also make this 32 by 32. Just like that. And then let's get our actual logo as well. Might as well, right? Put it right there. And what size did we make this in our CSS? 300. I think we have plenty of room to make this 300 pixels wide. We'll see how well this translates. So there's about 300 pixels wide. So I think we are going to need to make this header a little bit bigger. This is such a good exercise. We should be doing this way more often. There we go. So I'm going to go to 160. So if this is 650, this guide, and we know we want there to be a rem all the way around, so 650, 750, no, wait a second, 650 plus 16 is 666. Same over here. So if we know this is 1250, so 1250 minus 16 is 1234. There's 1234. So let's say that these are about a rem apart. That's 16 right there. And then if this is 35 and we know we want there to be a rem all the way around, and we don't have to stick with this, we're just trying to get an idea of what it is that we're actually going to do. So 67. No, that's not right. Hang on. What is this? That's 35. 35 plus 16. It's 51. There we go. 51. Gosh darn it. Okay, and then what's this? 160 minus 16 is 144. So there's our rem all the way around. So maybe our logo would start to be shrinking by then, right? Because it's responsive. So this navigation would be up here. This would be here. So I like that. I like it. We'll have to see, yeah, we'll have to see how it works on when we actually write the code. And then what happens when we click the search icon, right? So here's what I think should happen. So here's our actual search. I'll zoom back in again. So here's our actual search. So let's draw a little box. I'm going to draw a little box right like that. So that's about 228 pixels wide by 55 pixels tall. And then let's say I'm just going to turn off the old search because I don't like it and I don't need it. Let's draw a line. How do you draw a line? Do I really not know how to draw a line? What's this? Pen tool. Okay, we'll do the pen tool. So we'll go there. And we'll go to about there. There's our line. And the stroke is black. I don't really care about the colors right now. I'm going to increase that to 2 pixels. So here's what I think should happen, and we'll type in the word. We'll use the word search. Here's my line. It needs to be below, and then there's search. You can go. Search. There we go. And then where's our line? Our line is right there. Oh, beautiful. Okay. So here's what's going to happen. Let's get this just like that. And let's make our line be right there. Yeah. So when you click the icon, we're going to animate out just like that. We'll do a little nice slide out. So those two things are independent. So that means that we need to add an extra button just for, we're going to add an extra button for the search icon that when you click the button, it slides open the search input, just like we have a button to slide open the navigation. So this is our plan. What do we think? I'm so glad that we did this. I was thinking about it this morning. I was like, you know, I never really have a plan, and I spend all this time doing the header and making everything responsive. And wouldn't it be nice to just have a plan? So we'll have to come back and see if it actually ends up looking like this. So, all right. Monique is here. Welcome, Monique. Good morning. Greetings to all. Also, a mod in the chat. And Malik says, I just downloaded it. No clue what I am doing, but I'm sure I can figure it out. I can actually make some logos now. Thanks for sharing with us. Yes, absolutely. Definitely. I mean, I think the fact that it's free is pretty cool. And from what I'm hearing online, you can do there. They didn't remove any functionality. It is free for everybody. You no longer need a license. You just need you just need an account on Canva, I think, in order to do it. And yeah, just start like searching YouTube and searching Google to learn how to use it. But I think it's very similar to the existing version 2. So yes, I get it. Adobe's popular, but it is so expensive. In my opinion, it is overpriced. I don't like how difficult Adobe has made things for people. So I think free versions are always good. And to be clear, I think that we're always happy to pay for things that give us value. Am I right? I'm not a cheap person. I will spend money when I think I'm getting value, but there's nothing wrong with taking advantage of free tools either. So, okay. Well, what do we think? I'm kind of curious to come back and see if this actually ends up if we can actually make our header look like this. So I think this is going to take for sure all of today, possibly tomorrow, but I'm here for it. And I really like the idea of having another click event that opens up a search. I really, really like that. So yeah, excellent. Okay, good. We're going to start to do that. We're going to start to do this more often because my mock-ups never come with mobile. I mean, very, very rarely do they come with mobile. I shouldn't say never. Some have. And for the ones that don't come with mobile views, we're going to start doing this as an exercise because I think in the long run, it's going to save us time when we are actually writing the code. So, and Malik says that he likes the concept so far. So it's a very common pattern to do this. So I've done it before. So I know we can do it. And I'm pretty sure that we can transition with, right? Or we should really treat it like it's off canvas is what we should do. Yeah, we should just treat the search form like it's off canvas and just transition the transform. That's what we should do. Yeah. Yeah, in the past, what I've done is I've transitioned the width of the input. That is a lot trickier. That's a lot trickier than it seems. So, yeah. Okay, well, let's get started. Yeah, and do me a favor, if you haven't liked the video yet, please go ahead and do so. Helps the algorithm, right? It helps me push content like this out to people who might be interested in front-end development and who just want to hang out and do HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That's what we do here. We just practice and enjoy ourselves. Good, wholesome, clean fun. That's what this is. Okay, so in order to do this, we are going to have to add another button before the search form. This is good. We haven't we haven't done this before. So we're going to need another button, and it's going to be very similar to what we're doing with the navigation. Look how well all this work on the navigation has prepared us for this. Yeah, so we're going to do another, we're going to grab a second copy of our search button. And right before the form, I'm going to do button. And I'm going to give this a class of, whoops, open, or we'll call it toggle search. Yeah, that's the other thing. We have to figure out, we have to make sure that how do we toggle the search? So if somebody opens the search but doesn't actually search for anything, how do they toggle the search? What do they have to do to close it? I didn't think of that. Let's keep going. Maybe it'll come to me. So type equals button toggle search. We're going to say aria expanded false. Aria controls is going to be search form, and then we'll do an ID of search form. And then here's our SVG, and we'll say aria hidden true. And I'm going to take out this current color value. We'll make styling a lot easier. Yeah, how are we going to toggle that? I'm not really sure. Hang on one second here. Well, we do kind of need to think about this for a second. So what's really happening here? This is a button that when you tap the button, it opens the search. And then what closes the search? Do we have to put like an X here to close it? Is it just that the focus is the focus what makes it active? So if you're tapping the button, the focus, so if we tap, okay, I have to think about this. So if we tap the button, so first of all, if we tap the button, we're going to put a class on the body. Search active, right? That's what we do for the navigation. And then search active search active animates and opens it, but I can't give it focus without JavaScript. So how do I deal with that with CSS? I need another button that closes it, because once this is open, the button that opened it is hidden, and now this is a submit button. So you can't just click this button to close it, because you're clicking this button to submit. So maybe we have like an X here to close this. Is that what we do? So the focus, yeah, that's what I was thinking too. If there's no focus, that closes it. Yeah. So let's try it with focus. My brain is not immediately making the connection to how that's going to work. Because when you open the search form, you do want the search form to immediately have focus, which I think we have to do that with JavaScript. So if there is no focus on the input, you could immediately transition it closed. And that's easy, right? You just tap outside, any place outside of the input to not give it focus. But then but then how does the user know that they can just tap anywhere for the button to lose focus? I think you do that with another icon to close it, right? So maybe we put a nice little X up here in a circle, something that is just kind of aesthetically pleasing. I think you do have to have a separate button to close it. I think you have to give the user a way to close it. You can't just rely on focus to open and close something. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. I think anytime something requires action, you have to give somebody a button to click on. I think you have to do that. So I think we can just put like an X up here, a nice little X in a circle, right? We can make that nice and aesthetically pleasing. Yeah, I think the button is the best approach too. I think that that's the right way to do it for accessibility and usability, and not give users a way to guess. So let's go ahead and put in another button. So this is going to be almost identical structurally, markup wise, to the navigation, and we can style navigation with our hands tied behind our back. So this is going to be no problem whatsoever. So let's do another close button. And we're going to put it inside the form. We'll say aria hidden is true. I'm going to take out this current color. And we don't need aria expanded because it's inside the thing that's being expanded. And we don't need, oh, it has to be a button though, duh. So we'll say button, type button, class, close, search. So we've got toggle search. I'm just going to change this to open. Open search. And then we'll say button search, because I am going to need a way to do both. So we've got open search, close search, button search, button search. So aria hidden true. We take out current color for the stroke. We don't need, we do need an aria label. We need an aria label. Close search. We also need an aria label here. Open search. Boy, the first time the first time I had to do this, I was working at an agency. And I was really new. I was like a year. I was a year into my career as a developer. And of course, in the early days, I did not know nearly as much as I thought I knew. But I did have a design like this that on desktop was like you had to click and then slide it open and slide it closed. And I didn't know how to do it. And I spent like, I don't know, 2 or 3 days trying everything I could think of. And it was a job that I wasn't doing well in, and I was frantically trying to solve this problem, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't understand animations at the time, and I was frantically searching through Stack Overflow trying to find solutions, and I did eventually get it working. But I couldn't tell you for the life of me how I got it working, and I'm absolutely certain it wasn't accessible. But this just reminds me of that. It was like 10 years ago, and this reminds me of that. I'm definitely having PTSD right now thinking about it. So, okay. This makes sense to me. Yes. So, we got to hide a couple things here, and then we're going to get started. We'll do the navigation first, and then we'll do the search. Where are we here? Here we go. Oh, this is good right here. Okay. Okay. Good. I'm glad we're spending a little extra time on this. Oops. So let's start by just hiding these buttons. We'll get these out of the way, and then we'll do the navigation first, and then we will do the search form. Here's our navigation. Here's our search form. Okay, now we're back to normal. So first, we're going to hide our nav element, which is right here. And I think I'm going to hide everything at a width of 960 pixels. So we'll write our media query. Navigation is going to be position fixed, which means that we need to make sure our parent container, honestly, does it even matter what the parent container is when it's fixed? Isn't it always fixed to HTML? MDN position fixed. fix. The element is removed from the normal document flow. No space is created for the element in the page layout. The element is positioned relative to its initial containing block, which is the viewport in the case of visual media. Its final position is determined by blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you do need position relative. The element is positioned relative to its initial containing block, which is the viewport in the case of visual media. Which is HTML, right? Position relative to the viewport. Yeah. So I don't think you... Do I need position relative when I use position fixed? No, you generally do not need position relative. Is relative to the viewport. That's what I thought. So it's like it positions it to HTML, right? Or whatever the viewport is. Okay, that's, sorry, I just had to go down that road for a second. Position fixed. Top 0, left negative 300 pixels, width 300 pixels, max width 100%. Height is 100 VH. Transform, translate X, we'll say 0. We need a background color of white. And we're going to say box shadow none, but we're going to set a box shadow when it is transitioned. And I'm going to say Z index 3. I don't like to go higher than 3 unless I absolutely have to. 3 is my 999. That's what my 3 is. There's our nav, and we're kind of busting out there. So let's make sure that our main nav we're going to change the flex direction because right now it's a row. So we're going to change the flex direction to a column. And that hides everything now. So perfect. And then if we had on our body class, menu active, and then we said menu active, navigation, we would say transform, translate 300 pixels, which moves it to the right. We also want to say visibility hidden so it doesn't get accessed by a screen reader. And then we would say visibility visible, and then we can transition both the visibility and the transform. So we'll say transition, visibility, 300 milliseconds, ease in out, and then the transform. Also 300 milliseconds, ease in out. You can use whatever you want. That's what I like to use. So now here's our nav item. And if we come up here, right in the DevTools, and I'm just Control Z, Command Shift Command. Let me see here. Command Z, Shift Command Z to add and remove that class. So that's working perfectly. That is working perfectly. So let's take this class off. So we know we can animate that drawer open and closed. Now let's just get this looking the way it should. So what do we need to do to get this looking correct? So here, and here. So I think what we need to do is we need to, on the header, we need to get this and this next to each other. It doesn't matter what any of this stuff is inside here, right? Well, actually it does matter. I mean, but not really, because this is position fixed, so it's totally off canvas. And then we've got the button for the menu, the button for the search, and then the form itself. So we just need to get this next to each other and this next to each other. So I think the best way to do that is to do on the header. I actually think the best way to do it is grid and make this 100% and these two 50%. You could also use Flexbox and just on the top banner say with the 100% to keep it on its own line. Let's do that. Let's try Flexbox. So our header by default is display block, right? So we could say, just for the heck of it, we could say display block, just to make it extremely clear what that is supposed to be when it's not a media query. We can say media max width, 960 pixels, display flex, nope. So display flex, flex flow, row, no wrap. I do want it to be justify content. Space between. Yeah, Flexbox is definitely the way to go with this. And for sure align items center. And we're not going to need gap because space between puts them on the far edges. And then we need this top banner. And really, I think we could just set this here to width 100% and it will always stay on its own line. Okay, where'd you go? What happened? Our header, our top banner. I mean, they're there. What happened to them? Do I have do I have something here that prevents them from being... This is already display block, so why would you... Why is this collapsing down to nothing? Yeah, this is also display flex. That shouldn't matter. Flex, row, no wrap, space between. There's our access hidden for our SVG. I forgot to put ARIA hidden true on this, but I don't think that matters. Why is this 0.0? I don't understand. Just because I put display flex on the header. Because the SVG is display block. We have a width. We have a max width. So I think, does this need, do I have like a media query or something someplace that hides these? What's going on? No. Well, I guess this hasn't happened for a while, has it? So top left width. So this is completely collapsed. It says 0 by 64. That's fine. That's off canvas. I put visibility. You put visibility hidden, didn't you? So that's on this, right? On the navigation. Inside the media query. I don't think so. The visibility hidden is for the nav element. Yeah, it's for this element right here. It's not for this. This hasn't been hidden. It's still display block. I mean, does this need like width 300 pixels? So if there's, what's going on with this header? I don't, okay, so if we take this out, there's something else. I feel like there's something else going on here that I'm just not seeing. So if we take out that media query, yeah, there's nothing else impacting that media query or impacting the SVG. Why is making this display flex? It should just put these two things on the same line. Let's just try it right in the browser. Okay, let's try grid. I don't know why. I honestly have no idea why that's happening. So let's try grid because I need those. Unless, did I? Okay, so here's our top banner. Here's our primary heading. Here's our nav container. Here's our top banner. I just added this. Just added. So that wasn't there. So there was nothing saying how wide this should be, this top banner. I just added that. And then we've got the primary heading, which is right here. So we could do another primary heading with 100%. See, this is what I like about using Flexbox is I don't have to give everything a width. So let's do it. So if we do grid, can't we do, and there's 3 items. Display, grid, grid template columns. I want to do, so it would be, what is it, span, how do I use CSS Grid for 1 full width column and 2 columns that are 50% wide each. I don't know if this is gonna, okay, to create a CSS grid layout with one full width column and two 50% wide columns, you can use the grid template columns and grid template rows. So, defines two columns, each 50% wide. Defines two rows, one for the full width item and one for the two half width items. So grid template columns, grid template rows, optional gap. So this is the container. And then the full width item is grid column, spans across both columns in the first row. Grid column, 1 out of 3, grid row 1. Each half width item occupies one column in the second row. Grid row 2. Yeah, okay. This tells the item to start at the grid line 1 and end at grid. So it's 1, 2, 3. Got it. Okay. Let's try this. Let's look though, CSS grid. Can't you just use span? Am I making that up? It's like reading stereo instructions. Okay. Okay, let's try this. So on the parent container, you know what I don't like about this though? I don't like that then I'm still going to have to align everything to the edges. Yeah. We'll see how this goes. So this is for our container. And then this would be for the top banner item, which is right here. And then this is for primary heading and nav container. Why is it pink? Oh. Why is everything pink? There's something wrong with this SVG. That's the problem. There's something wrong with this SVG. Oh, do I have a width on this form? Is that why? Why is this SVG completely collapsing? Is this the reason why? Because of this, because of how I'm calculating. I think this is it. Is it because of how I'm calculating this? Yes. Okay. So the way the way I calculated this is not working. Why did this work in previous layouts and it's not working now? Why isn't this responsive? So So if you have a width and a max width, that should be okay. Maybe clearly it's not. So let's we have to change our wrap and then I bet it's gonna work. Yep, we have to change our wrap. I don't like this grid. This is not what I want to use, and I think we figured out what the problem was. So we're just gonna Control Z. How much time do you think that you are going to spend in your life doing Control Z? Trick question. A lot. The answer is a lot. Okay, problem solving at work. Folks, this is what it looks like when you're solving problems. So this, the way we set this is not working. So I think, why do I feel like this worked? Why isn't this working? We have a max width on here, so why wouldn't this work? I don't know. So can we do something like this instead, except this would be, if we're going to add 2, but then why wouldn't you just say? So maybe the right way to do this is to just... Welcome to Overthinking with Angela. So maybe the right way to do this is to just add padding on this container. But that puts it on the inside. So I do have to increase this. It puts it, the box model says padding goes on the inside of the box model, which means I have to increase this by 2 rems if I'm going to put 1 rem on the left and right. Yeah, look at there. And then if we go ahead and say, yeah, giving this a width of 100%. Okay, believe it or not, we're further along than we were before. I really thought that width 100% was going to force this to be on its own line. Yeah, I think everything else is okay. So I think, can't we just say flex 100%? Where is our top banner? So MDN, CSS, Flexbox, Flex. The whole thing. Here we go. Okay. Flexible sizing of flex items. Now, in your local copy, add the following rule to, no. Okay, you can also specify a minimum size value within the flex value. Just tell me the shorthand for flex. Flex, thank you. Flex shorthand versus longhand. So it's flex grow, flex shrink, flex basis. Flex grow is the unitless proportion value. This can be specified separately using the flex grow longhand property. A second unitless proportion value, flex shrink, which comes into play. Okay, so flex grow is what? So it's a number. It's a unitless number. So it would be, I bet we would do 0, 0, 100%. Flex 0, 0, 100%. So it doesn't like it. So that wasn't the problem with the wrap. It's forcing this top banner to be 100% is not putting those other, so I think we could, do we have to do this for those other two items? Oh my God, Angela, flex wrap. You have to, right here. Oh my God, if I had a nickel for every time I did this to myself, it's because for flex flow, I put no wrap. That's why it can't go to the second line. Okay. Every single time. I can't even express in words how many times this has happened where, because I'm in autopilot with flex flow row no wrap, because I generally do not want things to wrap, and I always forget that no wrap property is there. So when I'm trying to get things to wrap just like this, I can't, and then I wonder why things are collapsing and not going to the second line. So I bet if we come back here with the 100% is going to be fine. I don't even think that we're going to need the flex. Yeah. See, I knew I was right. I knew I was right. Okay. My mood is slightly improved. My mood is slightly improved right now because I was starting to get very frustrated. There. There we go. Wow, editing this is just going to be a shit show, but that's all right. 'Tis all right. Yeah, this is the other problem I'm having though right now is with by letting this all wrap now. The search form is automatically going to wrap to the second line. And yeah. Oh my gosh. So now how do I get this and this to stay on the same line? I mean, I guess I could just clamp the width on this. That's going to be the easiest way to deal with this, because right now we've got width 300 pixels, max width 100%, which is totally fine. But in order to keep these two things on the same line, I think just clamping the width of the SVG is the best way to go. So let's do that. Clamp to the rescue. So we know that we want the biggest value to be 300 pixels. What would we want the smallest value to be? So like, let's just, what is that? 150. Let's say, I mean, I want it to be kind of small, so maybe 100. Yeah, let's do, the smallest value would be 100 pixels. And then what's our middle value? Our middle value is, I don't even know. Would it be, so what's that? 344. 40? 44? 43? Let's try 43. Oops. See what happens. 43. Yeah, that works. Let's get it down there, maybe 35. Clamp to the rescue. I think it needs to be a little lower because we really need to keep that stuff on the same line. So maybe like, I don't know, 25? Oh yeah, look at that. I mean, listen, there's a lot of room here. Okay, so here's our, you can see our clamp values right here. So here's our desktop, and then it kind of pops into that 20 VW right around 14, 20 pixels. Shrink, shrink, shrink. Oh, yeah. So we might have to adjust that a little bit, but that's totally fine. Okay. Oh, we're getting there. Well, it turns out that for all my efforts actually designing actually designing what our mobile view is going to look like, it really didn't make it any easier today, did it? But I don't know. I don't know how many times I'm going to do that. I'm going to set the parent container as row no wrap in order to specifically, and forget that I'm specifically trying to get something to wrap to the other line. I don't know how many times I'm going to do that. So, all right. Let's get this top banner. Let's get this top banner looking okay. So I think our padding is okay. I think we just need to adjust this because this has a lot of padding. So I think we could clamp this as well. Line 173. Right here, these values can also be clamped. So maybe on mobile 0.25 rems, and then on desktop it would be a rem, and then maybe 2 VW. We'll play with this. Boy, clamp is amazing. Yeah, look at that. And then let's also clamp I think this could be even tighter. I also think this is a little bit so first of all, I think we need to make sure that this is also display flex, so we need to change the justify content on the top nav to center. So now it's centered. And then on the wrap, oh, but we also have space. You can see there's space here on the side because of because the after doesn't have a bullet, but the after still has margin and padding. What line is that on? 181. Right here. So we have to say padding left, margin left, 0. We missed that. Padding, that's going to make a huge difference. Well, I missed that. There we go. Nice, nice. And then I think the wrap, just for the top banner, we need to reduce the, I do think we need to reduce the padding on the left and right. I also think that we should say white space no wrap on this right here, which is going to force this. I think, do we do it on the LI or do we do it on the after? I think we can just say white space no wrap. Whoop, that's to force those to stay on the same line. No, I think it has to be on the LI. So we'll say There we go. Nice. Yeah, it doesn't really matter how much padding we have here because it'll all stay on the same line, and we are down to 280, and this still looks fine. And you can't collapse a window into nothing. You have to decide a point where you can draw a line in the sand and say, okay, once we get down to like 280, 290, I've done my job. It's responsive. You don't have to support it into nothing. Yeah. Okay, so that top banner, I am good with that. Just like that. Boy, clamp to the rescue. We love clamp. Okay, now let's make sure that, boy, every time I think, Angela, this is so boring. Just building UIs, it's so boring. No, it's not. Every time I think it's too boring to do, then I find myself in these types of situations. I don't think it's boring at all. So, okay. So neither of these things has any padding to hold it off to the side. I think this technically does. This does not. So let's make sure. Oh, and this SVG has a ton of margin, so let's get rid of that. So now let's just start chipping away, top to bottom, left to right. So this top banner, we're good. Header, good. Now, primary heading, I think we need to take the margin off of the primary heading and the margin off of the SVG. So the primary heading, and I think we could do these together. Margin 0. There we go, that tightened that up. And then I think we could give some padding just to this SVG. Or we could do it to the primary heading. So we might as well separate these. They're going to need to be separate anyways. So really, you need to give it to the parent container, not the SVG itself. So we'll say 0 on the top and bottom, and we'll say 0.5 on the left and right. There we go. Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, that looks great. I feel like we still have some space here. Probably from, yeah, it's probably, now let's do our search. So the nav container has this border top. We'll take that off. Wow, it took us a minute to get here, huh? One moment. What was that? Nav container. Oh, right here. Right there. Oh, and this would actually be right up here. Border top, oh. Border top none. And then let's just reduce the padding. I think right now it's a rem. There. The other thing that I was thinking is that I think that I have a little too much padding here on the bottom. So let's just adjust the padding inside the search input just a tiny bit. So this has 0.95 rems on the top and bottom. Let's adjust this. I do want it to have this much padding. I want it to be that big. But let's just do a little less on the bottom and a little more on top. So maybe on the bottom we have 0.5 rems. And then on the top we have 1.45. .75. So this would be 0.2. Yeah, I think that looks a little better. Doesn't look quite even, does it? But I don't like having that line so far below. But if I reduce the padding here, it doesn't look aligned, although I could just change it to flex end. Would that work? Boy, I really seem to be having one of those days. Okay, I'm not going to worry about the search right now because I feel like it's just going to make me mad. So, might as well let's try to find some easy wins here with what time we have left. So I do think that we need to make sure that this input is a little more flexible. Right now the form has a width of 200 pixels. How much you want to bet we could clamp that as well? Yeah, if we clamped the form and the header, it would keep it flexible and keep it on one line. Let's try that. Clamp to the rescue. So we know we want the largest value to be 200. And maybe the smallest value to be we have to get rid of we have to completely get rid of this well, maybe not completely get rid of this padding. Yeah, that has 0.5. So let's just update the wrap padding just for the nav container. Which is right here. So this padding will be 0 on the top and bottom, 0.5 on the left and right. That makes, yep, that makes a huge difference. And then this, maybe on the low end, I mean, I wouldn't want it to be much smaller, 150 pixels. So maybe this would be 15 VW? I don't know, I'm guessing. Well, it could, honestly, it could be 50. It doesn't matter as long as it's, well, maybe it matters. Yeah, maybe it doesn't matter. The whole point is to keep it flexible. Whoa, what do we think? Although, if the whole point of the search form on mobile is that you open it, yeah, what am I spending time on this for? If the whole point of the search form when you open it, because the form should be hidden on mobile and we should be showing the buttons. Yeah. Work through it, Angela. Work through it. Okay, I'm going to put the 200 back in here. I'm going to put the 200 back in here. Let's take a break because I can feel myself starting to get frustrated. So, and you know what? This is totally normal. It's normal to have moments like this. Had to step away, watched you figure out the no wrap problem. Yeah, it's actually happened to me more times than I can even count. The number of times that I haven't been able to figure out why my layout isn't working on mobile, it's specifically because I am so used to saying flex, flow, row, no wrap. And I do that for a reason because I don't want it to wrap on desktop until I specifically do want it to wrap. So, okay. So we've hidden our navigation. Now we have to hide our form. We have to do the exact same thing with the search form. But we're going to kind of hide it in place. So the search form has a width of 200 pixels. Let's go back to our body. And what did we say? We were going to say search active. Actually, no, I'm going to put not going to put that in right away. So search active is going to be our active class. So how do we hide this? At media, max width, and it's search underscore form. Search form. So this is going to be, I really just want to sort of hide it in place. So I just want to move it in the opposite direction. We know it has a width of 200 pixels. So I think we can just say transform, translate X we'll give this a transform. We'll say transform, translate X. We're going to call this 0. And if you're moving it to the right, it's a positive number. So let's say 500 pixels, just to make sure it's all the way off canvas. There. And then if it's going to be search active, search form, and it would be transform, translate X. We would just bring it back to 0. And then I think the width, instead of 200 pixels, would be 100%. We'll see how that works for us. And I think, is it going to sit over top of the logo? Do we want it to sit over top of the logo? If we give it some position relative, it will, with a little z index. We'll say 2. So search active. Oh, wouldn't it be nice if this worked? Yeah, so we could take it out of the flow with position absolute. That might be the better way to go. So here's the nav container. If we made this position relative, so if something is position absolute, is it still flexible though once you paste it into place? Or do we have to just make sure that we don't need this? Maybe this is where we make sure that once it's open, we just clamp the width instead of getting into a bunch of so we could say 50 pixels. And what do we say? 40 VW, 200 pixels. Yeah, we want to make sure that you can't type past that, right? Probably. So we're going to want to make sure that the input has padding on the right of 3 rems. We can do that. I think we have to clamp our logo a little tighter to give our search input a little more room. That's fine. Let's also put that. So we've got 0.95 rems on the top and bottom, 0 on the left and right. So we want to add padding to top, right, bottom, left, to the right, which would be 3 rems. So you can't type past the button. 5 rems, bottom, 0 on the left. So there's a, that keeps this from going any further. Yeah, perfect. That's good. Might want to give a little padding over there. So maybe just 0.25. There. So it's not right up against the edge. And then let's just clamp the logo a little tighter. That should be the thing that has a little tighter clamp, so the search form has enough room to grow and we're not popping everything to a second line. So maybe this is where we could say something really small like 50 just to keep it flexible. So that's 289. I don't think I would want that logo to get any smaller. So let's give this a little more breathing room. Yeah, so that gets us down to like 250 before that drops to the second line. So realistically, that's 320. I do think that we need to kind of tighten up that. But again, this is just when it's open, right? So and honestly, if we're shrinking this down, do we even need to worry about this? We could practically just do a media query for this. If the search form our search form's 200. Let's just change it. Yeah, and then the thing that's what do we think of that? So that gets us down to like 282 for mobile. Is that enough? Should we adjust this just a tiny bit more? Adjust this to 75 pixels. Yeah. So now we're down to almost 250. Okay. What line is that? That is line 203. Well, I think this is a pretty good start on the header. Yeah, I think this is a decent start. So if we were going to do this, that's about what that would look like. And then let's get in our, let's make sure that for desktop, our buttons are at least there and styled. Wow, this has been a day. This has been a day. Welcome to front-end development, right? Okay, so let's at least get our buttons in here and styled now, and we'll jump in and dig into the JavaScript tomorrow. I really didn't think that this was going to take this long, but honestly, I'm also not surprised. So I'm also not surprised. Okay, what are the name of these godforsaken buttons? There's header. So we've got menu button. Will now be, we'll start with that. We'll start up here. So these will be display block. And then our form button is also button search. Button search display, none there. And we also need these to be in line. Our form is hidden. On the form should also be visibility hidden. I feel like our buttons should already be up on this other line, but clearly they're not. Oh, it's because that is no wrap, that's why. So we have another no wrap to fix. So this is the nav container wrap. The media query. So this should be flex Flow, row, wrap. Did I not change that before? It's possible I didn't. Still not on the same line. Oh no, you're just getting a lot of width. That's why. With auto? Why are you so wide? Is it because of the max width? No. So you can wrap, which means that you're not on the same line because you're too wide. Why are you too wide? Is it because of space between? My content. Flex and no. Do I just have to specify a width? Yes. Okay. You're still not on the same line though. Is it because of the margin? I think it's because of the form. If I made this display none, that would, yeah, it's because of the form. Yeah. So you can't transition display. That does not work. Which means that it needs to be, which means that it needs to be fixed or position absolute to really get it out of the flow. I didn't want to do that though. I wanted to use transform, but transform clearly doesn't take it out of the flow. And yeah, I mean, so if we, instead of visibility hidden, do display none, what does that look like for, the actual transition? So where is, so it's right here. So the form is display block by default. We don't really have to define that, but I'm going to put it there. And then on mobile, it's display none. And that's fine because we want to take it out of the flow. But then when it's active, it needs to be display block again. Which means when we transition, when you click the button and transition, we can get a smooth scroll or a smooth transition open. But when you close it, it's going to be instantly display block. And I think that that will look fine. I don't think that's as big a deal as it is with the navigation menu. So we can just say transition, transform, 300 milliseconds, ease in, out. So let's see when we put, so if we do search active. Yeah, you're not really getting a smooth transition. And then let's, when it's search active, we want to hide those buttons, right? Although my preference is that it would just slide out over top of the buttons, which means it needs to be position absolute. I'm gonna have to think about this because I'm not exactly sure. So if it was 10 years ago and I didn't care about accessibility, this might not be as hard. But I have to think about if we make a position absolute, can it just slide out over top of those buttons? I don't think so. I think the buttons have to be at least visibility hidden. So if the search form's open, you wouldn't have access to the buttons. You wouldn't want that, right? Yeah, I have to think about this. I'm going to have to think about this. I might need to sleep on this. And Malik says this was a good productive day. I mean, I'm glad you think so. I don't think this was particularly productive. I think this was an absolute shit show. I don't think that I was productive today at all. I think that I felt so confident, like I had this plan going in, and clearly I didn't. So, yeah. It's fun, you know, but it's, I mean, I think it's also relatable that you have one thing that's holding you back that causes all sorts of problems. That's completely relatable with the wrap, no wrap situation. So, and Santi says, I'm looking for a remote internship. Yeah, I can't help you with that. So this is probably a good time to remind people, if you're new, that I cannot help you find clients. I cannot help you with a remote internship. I can't help you find a job. So we practice HTML, CSS, and JavaScript here. So if you're here to just hang out and enjoy front-end development and practice your skills, this is the right place to be, but I can't help you find a job. So unfortunately, I will not be able to help you with that. So with that being said, but listen, if you have questions about something specific to front-end development, let me know. I'm happy to answer your questions. We had a quiet chat today, which I think is perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. Yeah, do me a favor. If you haven't liked the video, if you actually liked what you saw today, go ahead and like the video. I would appreciate it so much if you would be willing to subscribe. Helps the algorithm, helps me get this pushed out to more people who might enjoy this type of content. I have to think about this tonight and how I'm going to deal with this search. I don't want to do a bunch of absolute or fixed positioning because it's not an entire drawer like the navigation, right? The navigation is so easy to deal with because it takes up the full height of the screen, and it's a drawer that is meant to come out over top. And the search doesn't do that. I just want it to function in place. But I can see now that without some absolute positioning, I don't think it's gonna work exactly the way that I thought it would. Which means I don't know what that means. I have to think about it. I think I'm gonna have to look for some other examples of how people are dealing with that and figure it out. The easiest solution would be to not do that at all and just drop it below the header on mobile, right? But it feels like a cop-out. It feels like a cop-out. I want to solve this problem. This is a problem that many people have solved. So I think we should solve it too. And Santi says, I was hopeful, but how do I get clients then? Yeah, unfortunately, I can't help you with that. So I'm not sure how much more clear I can be about the fact that I am not going to be a resource for you to get internships, jobs, or clients. I just can't do that for you. So thank you for subscribing. Thank you for waiting 20 minutes to engage in the chat. I definitely appreciate that. I cannot help you find a job, an internship, or clients. That's beyond the scope of this channel. So Monique says, have a good rest of the weekend. And yes, this is all a part of the process. It absolutely is. I feel really frustrated right now because I thought today was going to go much different. And you know what? That is not only a normal part of life, it is a normal part of being a developer. That you wake up, you sit down, and you get to work, and things just start to happen that you have to deal with, problems that you have to solve, bugs that you run into, and it's all part of the process. So it's definitely not a bad thing. I just feel frustrated right now that it happened in this moment. So Santi, I can tell that you are being very nice. You're also being very persistent. I can't help you. So Malik says he's in the same boat. Just play the numbers game. Something will come up sooner or later. He's absolutely right. And Monique says study and make toy projects to build your portfolio if you want to get an internship. Yeah. If I could get into the mind of the modern day tech hiring manager, I would love to be able to channel what it is that those people are thinking and pass that insight along to you. But I have no idea. It's so different now, getting a job now compared to how it used to be 10 years ago when I was starting out. Is just completely different. And then when the time comes, you will have something to show. Exactly. And Santi says, you're a freelancer. Yes, I can confirm I am a freelancer. So, okay, I think this is a good time to end things. Everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it. Say thank you to Monique and Malik in the chat, our moderators. And yeah, I hope I wasn't too sassy because that's how I'm feeling right now. I think what I'm going to go do this afternoon is go walk around Costco and get my shopping done. Take the dog for a nice long walk, which is what I tend to do when I feel frustrated to clear my head. And then I'm going to come back this evening and I'm going to sit and think about how I'm going to deal with this search. And I feel very confident that we can get this header buttoned up by the end of the day tomorrow. It takes as long as it takes, right? And we're all here to learn. So with that being said, have a great rest of your day wherever you are. I love you all, and I will see you in my next one. Bye-bye.